Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susan McGuire, Manager of Professional Development at ACCE, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar. Today's webinar is the first in our series highlighting our 2017 Chamber of the Year award winners. We'll hear from Erin Williams, the President and CEO of the O'Fallon Chamber of Commerce, about its Manufacturing Day event and its other successful workforce development initiatives, including its Grow Manufacturing campaign. Before I turn the program over to Erin, I do have a few housekeeping notes. First, attendees are in listen-only mode during the webinar to avoid background noise. Second, after the presentation, we'll have time for questions, which you can ask by using the question function of the webinar. The question box is on the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Just type in your question, and I will read the question to Erin. If we run out of time and don't get to your question, or if you have a question that you would prefer to discuss with us individually offline, please feel free to contact Erin directly. Her contact information will be on the last slide of the presentation. Or you can contact me and I'll put you in touch with Erin or answer your question, and we will get in touch with you. Third, this webinar is being recorded, and it should be up on the ACC website on the ACC University webpage by Monday, February 5th. And just backing up a second, I should make clear that if you've asked a question and we don't get to it, we will contact you. No worries. You don't have to recall us or whatever. The webinar presentation slides are uploaded to the webinar panel on the right-hand side of your computer screen. So just click on the presentation to download it. If you can't download it, if it's not working for you or you'd rather not bother with it right now, no worries at all. I will post the presentation slides along with the webinar recording. So with that, I will introduce our speaker for today. Erin Williams has served as the President and CEO of the O'Fallon Chamber of Commerce and Industries since 2010 and has been in the chamber world since 2002. In that time, the organization has been named the Missouri Chamber of the Year for Large Market and, of course, the National ACC Chamber of the Year in 2017. Erin serves on the Wright City School Board of Education, the Fort Zumwalt Education Foundation Board, St. Charles County Workforce Development Board, and is a past president for the Chamber of Commerce Executives of Missouri Board of Directors. Erin graduated from the U.S. Chamber's Southeast Institute of Organizational Management in 2016 with some of the best folks on the planet. And saving the very best for last, Erin is mom to two amazing, funny, smart, and extremely strong-willed little girls, Claire and Caitlin. So thank you, Erin, so much for being with us today, and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Susan, and thank you for joining us. I appreciate your time, and I'm always excited to talk about our organization and what we've done with workforce development. So I'm going to kind of talk about how we got involved with it and what we've done, and hopefully what you'll glean from that is the amount of collaboration and the grassroots, the way that it came about. So, and as you heard from my bio, I'm extremely fortunate to be involved with workforce development and education. So all of this is very, very near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to go ahead and start by telling you a little bit about our organization. We are the O'Fallon Chamber of Commerce and Industries, and you'll see a picture from our membership meeting actually just last week. We have a very active chamber. We have 685 members currently, 4 staff members. We have a communications director, director of member engagement, and our administrative assistant and myself. And of course, we are the 2017 Chamber of the Year for Category 1, which is something that I will continue to talk about for the rest of my life. We serve the city of O'Fallon, and the city of O'Fallon has a population of about 85,000 and about 1,600 businesses. So we are the second largest city in the St. Louis metro area and the 7th largest city in Missouri. We are continually listed as one of the best places to live by Money Magazine, as well as other accolades like best place for veterans to live, best place for singles, affordable housing, all of those kinds of things. And that leads into St. Charles County, which is also the healthiest, wealthiest, and wisest county in Missouri. So we are in St. Louis metro area. We have been named as the fastest growing county in Missouri. We've had 70% growth since 1993. So lots of folks, it's a young community. In O'Fallon, our average age is 37, or median age. Going back to St. Charles County, 24% of regional job creation over the past 3 years has occurred right here in St. Charles County. So we're extremely fortunate. We have lots of great businesses here in O'Fallon. We have the world headquarters for MasterCard. We have Citigroup, True Manufacturing, SAK. Down the road, we have General Motors. And a little east of us in St. Charles, we have Boeing. So lots of great industries represented here. I will talk about the healthy, wealthy, and wise, because that's going to keep occurring. And then we have the St. Charles Community College, and there are 6 chambers of commerce in our county. And we're going to come to that a little bit later when we talk about collaboration and how all of those things work together. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how this even came about. As many chambers, we were looking at how we could better engage our membership and especially those folks that we don't get to see very often. So at a CCEM meeting, Chamber of Commerce Executives of Missouri, this idea of 12 at 12 roundtable discussions came up. And some other chambers were doing those as an engagement strategy for folks who you don't normally see at membership meetings or business after hours or morning coffees or those kinds of things. So we started doing those, and at those meetings, we invite the mayor, economic development director, the chairman of our board, myself, and then there's 8 businesses that we have. I shouldn't just say those folks are invited. Those folks are always there. Those meetings go on the mayor's calendar as soon as we get them listed, and he's great about always being there. But it's really just an opportunity for us to be able to have roundtable discussions on what's going on in your business, and that's really what we started the conversation out with. We didn't have anything any leading questions. It was just really let us know what's going on and how the chamber can assist your business and how the city can assist your business. So from those first couple of meetings, and this was in 2014, what we started to hear as a recurring topic was we really need skilled trade people. Our workforce is suffering. And of course, I'm sure everybody on the call has heard, soft skills are suffering and, retail, we can't find people to work. All those things, but this was a different tone that these folks were taking. It was more desperation and frustration and just really kind of frantic. We really need workers. We need welders. We need floor layers. We don't have anybody, coming up. We're going to have folks retiring, and we have, contracts, and we're really concerned about how this is going to affect their business. And like I said, this was at least our first 3 12 at 12 roundtable discussions continued to come back to this topic. So we decided to, let's get everybody in the room together at an industrial summit. So we had our first industrial summit, and we really focused it in on having a limited invitation list for manufacturers, because what we didn't want to do was say, and I'll get into statistics a little bit in a minute, but we didn't have a strong membership in manufacturing, and so we didn't have those relationships built. So we didn't want people to think that we're inviting you to come and you're going to have a sales pitch. So it's very much we're going to have speakers. It's free to attend. We had sponsors to provide, the space and the breakfast and all of those costs. We invited our chamber board of directors and our city council, and we really just kind of focused in on what was relevant to manufacturers. So some of our topics that we've had is, school business partnership, succession planning. The Department of Economic Development came in and did kind of a economic outlook for manufacturing specifically. And then, of course, we talk about workforce development. But at those, we also reserve time for roundtable discussions. And we had a chamber team member or board member or ambassador, or not ambassador, but board member, leading those discussions, but really just kind of asking questions. And what we found from those, two things that always stick out in my head is somebody said, well, we didn't know that manufacturers could be a part of the chamber because chambers are for retailers. And the second one was, so there's this event called Manufacturing Day, and we think it could be different. We think it could be bigger and better. And so we continue to have those discussions. And so that's how we kind of got involved with Manufacturing Day. It started out as a 12 at 12 roundtable discussion, then into an industrial summit, and then through the course of those conversations, well, let's do this and see if we can move the needle a little bit. So manufacturing in St. Charles County actually started with the St. Charles Community College Workforce Development Department. They have an amazing department. They go out and work with businesses to help them succeed, to get the training that they need, to skill up, all those kinds of things. And so they were working with Manufacturing Day, but taking a really different approach as to more of just and I shouldn't say just, but more of a thanks to manufacturers. So they had booths set up, they had balloons, they had cookies, and it was more of a kind of get to know each other. And, we're really appreciative that you're in our community. Well, what we were hearing from our members was that's fantastic, but what we really need to do is get students engaged here, because that's what we're missing. We really need to get kids here, and we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to even make them want to, and we don't know how to get into the schools. So we had our first Manufacturing Day in 2015, and our goal all along has been really, how are we going to change the perception of manufacturing careers? And so the goals that we had no idea what was going to happen, but we wanted to have at least 200 kids there, and we wanted to have about 100 folks in the community, and what we're going to call them is our influencers. And the thought behind that is we need to not only change the perception of the students who might not even really know enough to have an idea or have an opinion of a career in manufacturing or skilled trade, but we need to get to those people that they're going to talk to that about. So how do mom and dad feel about going into a skilled trade as a career, or how do they feel about going into a manufacturing career, so that those folks, when Johnny comes home from school and says, I want to go work at this plant because they make really cool stuff, mom and dad aren't going to say, oh, you don't want to do that, that's a terrible job, there's no future there, blah, 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 you're better than that, where they were bringing back memories from 20, 30 years ago. Now we can show them what those careers look like now, and they can say, oh, okay, that sounds great, let's explore that some more. So of course, with anything, there's challenges to that. And the first one was getting schools on board, and then really overall cost of the event. So, the transportation costs, we wanted to kind of negate any objection that the schools would be able to give us. So the bus cost of getting kiddos to the site, and, lunch cost and timing and all of those kinds of things. So we were actually very fortunate. Component Bar Products, which is one of our manufacturers here in O'Fallon, said, we'll cover it. We think this event is extremely important. They're actually the ones who brought it up at the Industrial Summit. They said, we think it's important, and whatever you guys need to do to make it happen, let's make it happen. And, nobody normally gives us blank checks to run events, so we were pretty excited about that. And then we also had to think about the manufacturers and what we were going to be asking from them, and was there going to be a time crunch, and how we were going to market this, because what even was this event going to be to get, our influencers there. And then we were very cautious on, are we stepping on toes? The St. Charles Community College had relationships with these manufacturers, and they had been running this event for 2 years. So we had to be really cautious that we weren't going to say, well, we're going to take this event over because it's not what it could be or should be or needs to be or whatever. Again, they were just taking a different approach. So, that really falls into having those relationships with people and community partners from the get-go. So we were able to reach out to the St. Charles Community College, the dean of their, over workforce development, and the people that we know. Luckily, we have great relationships with all those folks in workforce development, and just say, we would love to be a part of this. We have some ideas. We're working with, the folks at Component Bar, and what can we do and how can we do it? And, fortunately, they were very grateful and said, absolutely, we're excited that anybody else wants to take this on, and how are we going to make this bigger and better and more exciting? So it was really nice that they had that thought to just be able to say, absolutely, what do we need to do, and how can we help? Manufacturing Day. So this Manufacturing Day is a national day. It always happens on the first Friday of October. So if you go to manufacturingday or mfgday.com, they have a ton of resources on there, and you can actually register your event as well, so that you can kind of see nationwide what's going on, and then they give you some marketing opportunities as well. So that was one of the things as far as marketing, really getting the influencers on board. And of course, we were able to use chamber resources and blast it out to our membership and press releases and all those kinds of things. But again, keep in mind that you're going to have 200 kids there. You don't really want the full public, security reasons or whatever there. So we were kind of played with the timing on that a bit as well. And also, when we go back to getting the schools on board and having those relationships, for us, we have one of our school districts is Fort Zumwalt School District, and they have like 16,000 students in their schools, 4 high schools and a jillion or so elementaries and middle schools. But we were able to, I was able to call the superintendent and say, hey, we want to do this. We think it's important. What do you think? And would you be willing to send us kids? And so he actually took it back to his principals, and they got back with us and said, absolutely. We're going to send middle school 7th and 8th graders for this year. So in 2015, that school particular sent middle school kids. Other schools in the area sent high school kids. We had a school from a county over send kids that were in high school as well. But one of the things that we heard back was these kids are too little. And what we had to explain to our manufacturers was, this isn't a job fair. We're working to change perception. This is going to be a long-term approach. This is, at the time, we didn't know what else we were going to be doing or what we were getting ourselves into. But it was really, we need to change the perception, and that starts before, your junior year of high school when you're looking for a job. And in our school, in 8th grade, you start choosing your coursework for high school. And so Dr. DeBray, our superintendent, was intentional on, we need to have kids at this point in middle school, because then when they're picking their coursework for upcoming, high school years, they're open to that idea. So here are some pictures from our first Manufacturing Day. We held it at Component Bar Products, and they actually had a training center connected to their building or to their campus. So there was plenty of room. So we were able to have all of our buses come in through that area, and then they were able to actually get a tour of a working manufacturing facility. So you'll see some pictures here, and I'll just kind of explain this first one on the left side of your screen. You'll see these kids are just kind of checking out this 3D printer. Below that is our mayor actually playing tic-tac-toe with a robot called Dexter. I don't know if he won or not, but the point is that we told our manufacturers that if they wanted to have booths, that they needed to be interactive. We're dealing with kids here, and it needs to be something that they can touch, feel, play with. They can see how it's working, not just parts laying on a table because nobody knows what that is. So Dexter was a hit with everybody, adults and students. You'll see kind of in the middle, this is at the plant. They actually had booths set up as they were walking through so that the folks that work there could kind of explain everything and break stuff down more. Above that, on the right hand of your screen, we had the Viper, which is one of our local radio stations, out doing live broadcasts. And that, again, was something that we had a relationship with the radio station. Their sales director is one of our board members and ambassadors, and Component Bar Products was willing to, pay for the reduced cost to have a live broadcast out there. So that was happening in the afternoon after the kiddos had gone back to school. We were having live broadcasts to make sure that the community knew that it was open for them to come in as well. And from that, we had several folks come through and a couple of homeschool groups come through, which was really cool because that wasn't anything that we had at that time thought about inviting and making sure that we were hitting that demographic as well. And then the bottom picture that you'll see is all these kiddos lined up in their manufacturing day shirts. So again, we were very fortunate. We just kind of put it out there and said to our manufacturers, would anybody be interested in sponsoring T-shirts? Because we would like these kids to be able to walk away with something, because we want to make field trips fun. We want to make them memorable. So what can we give them so that they're going to remember this? And so every kid who came through got a T-shirt, and on the back, it has some, our sponsors on there. But you'll see it just says 2015 Manufacturing Day. And that's something that we have continued is doing T-shirts for everybody who attends. And that is something that we always hear about, just how much they look forward to that and getting their T-shirt. And I will say from the Chamber's perspective, it is always very exciting when you are out somewhere and you see kids wearing your Manufacturing Day shirt. So in 2015, as I said, our goal was to have about 200 kiddos and about 100 community folks. So we actually ended up with 430 students. It was huge. We were super, super excited. We could have had more that first year, except for there were just constraints. And I will talk about some of those challenges in a bit on the timing and how quickly you could move kids through. As I mentioned, we had about 100 community partners join us from the Chamber, from live broadcasts, from, city council, whatever it may be. And then we had 11 booths. So we asked our manufacturers to come. We didn't charge them anything, so it was absolutely free, except for their time. So to come, set up a booth that's interactive, explain what you make, what your job is, what kind of jobs are there, and then be very frank about here's how much folks make and here's what the career trajectory is. So you might not start out making a ton of money, but you put your time in and you skill up and continue to be trained, and the opportunities are fantastic. So we had 8 manufacturers that had booths there, and then we had 3 community partners. So the college had one, the workforce development department, and the chamber had booths. We only had 2 sponsors that first year, Component Bar Products and True Manufacturing, and then just 1 tour site at Component Bar Products. Making that excitement grow and kind of building on that, in 2016, the event just continued to grow. So we actually had 400 students, and I will talk about that too. There was a school that was off school that day that we weren't aware of because of parent-teacher conferences or something like that. We had about 75 community members show up. We billed that one as a job fair, which got our manufacturers excited. However, in St. Charles County, currently we have an unemployment rate of 2.8%. 2.8%. So in 2016, it might have been like 3.2. So you have unemployment rates that low, you don't have a whole lot of people show up to job fairs. But we did have, again, a good showing from chamber members and the community college and other community partners come in. And the exciting part for us was that we had 17 booths. So people were excited about it. They had found their time worthwhile from 2015 and were willing to share a day with us again. We did increase our sponsors to 7, so we were able to bring in $19,000 to help cover the cost of the event, because by the time you look at what the transportation costs are for all of the buses and T-shirts, and then I also didn't mention that we did lunch. We provided lunch for all of the kiddos and the manufacturers who had booths there at the event. And then we had 8 tour sites. And so at this one, we went to the community college because they had the area and we could put them in, put the students in different rooms. So we had kind of breakout sessions. But the tour sites, we were able to call our manufacturers and ask for the facility that was on their way back to school. So the students would start with the community college. They would go around, visit all of the booths, learn from those folks. And then we would put them on a bus that would take them to a facility that was on their way back to their campus. And so we had 8 folks sign up for that. And that was really fun because they're getting to see different things. And we were able to engage more of our manufacturers, and they were excited about it. In 2017, our student count went back up to 460. We did not have as many community members present just because with the job fair from the year prior, we decided to just kind of shorten the day up so that we weren't asking that for that time allotment again from our manufacturers. However, we did, because of that, have an increase in our booths. So we were able to showcase 31 of our businesses to these students, and they were all interactive booths. They were all talking about, what their career paths were, what career paths were available in their plant. And that was something that I heard back from the counselors and the students, was that you don't have to just be a welder or, a CNC operator or whatever it may be. There's so many different paths that are available in manufacturing. We had 12 sponsors and, again, 8 tour sites. So, continuing to grow and continue to hear great things and great feedback from our students and from the counselors and the advisors that come. So I just kind of wanted to go over some lessons that we have learned through the 3 years that we have been doing this event. And the first one would be to get on school calendars early. As I mentioned, in 2016, one of our school districts was off for the day. They were, parent-teacher conferences or whatever. And then, some other schools were saying, well, these kids can't come because it's homecoming and they don't want to miss that day because it's Spirit Week, or there's a big test that day, so they wanted to be there. So all of those kinds of things get in the way. So what we have done in 2017 is we actually moved the day off of the National Manufacturing Day on that first Friday of October, and we actually moved ours a week up into the last week of September, which allowed us to be more flexible with the schools and what schedule they were on. And then, a kid's got to eat. So it's all those little logistics about what are they going to eat and where are they going to eat, and are there allergies that we need to be concerned about, and where's the trash going to go, and all of those kinds of things, because obviously we're not set up to have a cafeteria for 460 kids. Looking at what else is happening in the area. So we have a technical school in St. Charles County that was having their a manufacturing day as well in 2016. And so that took one of the schools that had told us they wanted to attend, they decided to go to that event, which, the more people that know about manufacturing, the better. But having that in mind was helpful, especially, in 2017 planning that. And then just the logistics. So how we've done the event is that if a school brings, 60 kids on a bus, only 20 of them are going to be grouped together, because at that point you start to lose some of the interaction. So they would be, color-coded wristbands with 20 kids are going to go here, 20 kids are going to go there, 20 kids are going to go there. And it was kind of round robin with breakout sessions and watching videos from Manufacturing Day National, to being able to look around the expo area with all of our manufacturing booths, and then get back on the bus all at the same time. We also have to keep in mind that schools are extremely tight on their scheduling. So buses have to be back by a certain time. And as far as the tour sites, the buses, at least in our school districts, the bus request has to have exact addresses of where they're going, and to allow, correct billing or whatever they're working on. It's not nearly as flexible as we kind of envisioned it would be. And then booths, how do we keep our kids interested? So as I said, we asked all of our manufacturers to have interactive booths, and each year it seems like they up their game just a little bit more. So we've had things like a virtual welder, so we can, you can try your hand and see how steady your weld is. We've had last year actually we had 3 3D printers going, because all of the kids loved that. We've had CNC machines. This year we actually had a CNC machine that was set up and making kids fidget spinners. So if they were asking good questions or being, very attentive, they would get thrown a fidget spinner that they were watching being created. So all those kinds of really cool things. General Motors has brought out this heat sensor thing. So you just see a bunch of kids standing in front of it to see where all their hot spots are. So just those kinds of things that really keep kids engaged, rather than just handing out flyers and talking about, here's what we do and here's the career paths. When we started booking tour sites, one of the main concerns obviously is safety for our kids. So, what do they need to be dressed like, and who's going to be leading them through, and, what parts of the tour maybe aren't appropriate for kids as far as safety and stuff, and where else can we take them. And then we had some manufacturers say we want our kids to be able to eat here so that we can talk to them for a little while. Volunteers are a big thing, to make sure that there's kids, people there ready to, for lack of a better term, herd the children. And then if a school cancels. So this is something that happened to us this year that infuriated actually one of our large sponsors. They had rearranged their schedule and their lunch breaks in their facility to allow for 120 students to come tour. That's what we were told the schools were sending. It was a couple of schools. And those schools canceled, and one was only able to bring like 5 kids because permission slips weren't signed. And just kind of remembering that we're dealing with kids. And so that was really hard for us to swallow, because we had to go back to our sponsor and say, I know you've done all this work, and I know you've been a main supporter of this for several years, but we don't have any kids coming. So thanks, but, go ahead and go back about your business as normal. So what we're looking at now and moving into 2018 is, trying to figure out if there is a way to kind of divvy up tour sites, the day of Manufacturing Day, so we can kind of choose where students are going at that point. Those are still details that we're trying to figure out, but just kind of keeping, if you're going to do something similar, keeping that in mind to have that backup plan, and at least have those lines of communication open with your manufacturer that these folks are canceling, and we can't do anything about it. And then what we have found in Manufacturing Day and doing this is really what we've continued to hear at ACCE conferences and your state association conferences is really having those um, relevant events and things that are problem solving to our businesses. So we send out the Manufacturing Day sponsorship form, and we have to do very little calling, and we start getting checks in because our folks are excited that there is an event that is really filling a need that they have. So it's just increasing that relevance for them and for us. And that's really what I want to talk about more is, um, the outcomes that we had that were more than just numbers. And, that's kind of what we were really excited about from especially our board of directors. Well, first of all, we have the increased awareness and engagement among manufacturers. So at this point, they know that we're not just for retailers. Anybody can be there, and we're filling a need. And increased relevance. So, our community partners, as well as the manufacturing community and the industries that we represent, a lot of times we hear, well, we can't make the events, so we're not going to join. And if you can't go to an event, it's the same thing that everybody in chamber world hears. If you can't go to an event, you're not getting your return on your investment. And what we were really able to show them through this is that what we are is problem solvers. And once we know that there is a problem, we will do everything that we can to help solve that and to, help find those opportunities that we can solve that problem. And then the collaboration. So we have, as I mentioned, we have 6 chambers in St. Charles County. Each community has its own economic development department, and we have a county, it's called EDC, Business and Community Partners, but economic development for the county. And what this event really did, and everybody gets along, but brought all those parties together at the table. So we invited all of the chambers to have representation on the committee. We, obviously work very closely with economic development, with workforce development, and the community college, but it brought lots of folks on board and just a way of saying, like, we're all in this together. We understand that this is more than just O'Fallon's issue. This is a, county, state, national issue. And we're going to work together to get this solved. So, in O'Fallon, we have about 5,000 employees that are employed by manufacturers. In St. Charles County, that's about 15,000. So it's very important for everybody. And we are all able to get on board and make sure that we are using our resources together to make this a great event and a great outcome for our kiddos and for our businesses. So, but wait, there's more. Finding this, and this is going to backtrack a little bit. So now we're back in 2015, and we did a diversity study for the folks that were represented in the chamber. So we actually looked at how many businesses do we have in the city of O'Fallon? What industries do they fall in? What percentage does that make up of the city? And what does our membership look like? Does our membership reflect what's in the city of O'Fallon? And what we found was that, you can see here our numbers, but in hospitality, 20% of the businesses in the city of O'Fallon were hospitality related, and 14% were of our membership. In manufacturing, 5% were in the city of O'Fallon, while we had less than 1%. And retail, you can see, is there as well. And so we actually made that a priority in our 2020 strategic plan that we continue to work on. How do we increase the diversity among our industries that are represented and make sure that we have a good handle on what's going on in all of our industries and keep those lines of communication open? And so we actually became the O'Fallon, or went from the O'Fallon Chamber of Commerce to the O'Fallon Chamber of Commerce and Industries, just so that we could more adequately relay and brand that we are for everyone. Even if, you and I might think, well, of course the chamber serves all businesses, but tacking on that end industries part has really made people, I think, stop and think about it a little bit more, and we're able to have those conversations with. We're here for everybody. So we wanted to, of course, continue to reach influencers. And so we started our own website. It's called growmanufacturing.org. And this is the logo that we created. And so on the website, if you go there, growmanufacturing.org, you'll actually see a couple videos from our Manufacturing Day celebrations, as well as information about Manufacturing Day, the facts and figures that are important to influencers. So it's things like, what's the skills gap? What's the job perspective? What's the average wage? Nationally, what does it look like? What does it look like here? And then resources to find the education that you need. So what are the certificates that I need? Where are the schools that I can get that from? And then this year, I shouldn't say this year, in 2017, we started a social media page on Facebook, Grow Manufacturing SCC. And so we're able to continue to be in front of folks in that way, and continue to put information out there, in job postings and those kinds of things, and really try to reach those folks that are going to help those students in our future workforce make decisions. So here is kind of what the website looks like, and we don't have a huge budget, so doing all of this stuff, we're always looking at what our costs are. So we designed the website ourselves using a template through Snap Pages. We pay $129 a year for that, and it was $30 to register our name. So very low cost. We have an in-house graphic design person who's able to do all of our graphics. So we're able to manage all of this ourselves and change the information and those kinds of things. And then, so what we're working on now, well, the publisher is working on now, is our Grow magazine. And this is kind of our next stage of this Grow campaign. And this, again, comes from just great connections. So I was very fortunate to be at a graduation. I had somebody in my institute class from Catawba County Chamber, and at our graduation, I was able to meet their folks. And Danny Hearn, who was the president then, and Lindsay shared with me. We started talking about workforce development as odd conversations happen, and they shared with me the magazine that they've produced on really workforce and being the opportunities that are available in manufacturing and skilled trades and those kinds of things. So we are copying, I'll just be blatant, copying that and producing a Grow magazine. So right now it is the publisher is working on it. It will be published this spring, and our high schools have said that they will, have those magazines in their counselors' offices to be able to showcase that. But it really focuses on what careers in manufacturing looks like, what careers in skilled trades look like. We actually had the Carpenters District of the St. Louis metro area take out a 2-page spread. And we've never had, other than saying or seeing people at different events, a relationship. They're not chamber members, but I was able to tell them, hey, here's where we're going with this. Here's what we're trying to do. I know you guys are hurting for new apprentices as well, and they said, absolutely. What do we need to do to sign up? So again, that collaboration piece. Like I said, these will be distributed in our school counselor offices. And what we had talked about was, you think about, you go into a high school counselor offices and there's going to be walls of brochures and magazines from colleges and universities that are all full color and glossy, and they're talking about, how great life is on campus, and, what your job perspectives are when you graduate, and, how affordable it is, and all these kinds of things. But as a business community, we're not doing that. We're not focusing in on and saying and making it very pretty and glossy that There's job opportunities right now, and you can come in right off the bat, or you can get a technical skill. You can go to trade school, any of those kinds of things, and there's career opportunities there as well. So this is kind of our answer to that, and really being able to showcase what else is out there if a four-year degree isn't it for you. And so what's next for us? We're contemplating several things. So the state of Missouri, the Missouri Chamber of Commerce is very involved with the Dream It, Do It initiative. We're looking at signing on to that as well, whether we're going to start a manufacturing council, because really what we've told our manufacturers is, again, that kind of relevance part. When we know there's an issue and we have that open communication, we're going to jump on board and we're going to try to problem solve that for you and help you out through that. But we don't know those things if you don't talk to us. So some sort of continuing discussion of how can we keep this going so that we always know what's going on and it's not a reaction, but we can be proactive. And we get that at our industrial summits as well, but really strengthening that up more. We've also looked at long-term advertising campaigns, if we should take out billboards, and then scholarships for students who might want to go to trade school or do some sort of technical certification. So that's kind of where we're at. And at this point, I would just say, I know that's a whole lot of information, and I am sorry if I rambled, but if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Erin, for that great information and inspiration about your manufacturing day and follow-up. Erin is available now to answer any questions you may have. And again, to do that, just type in your question in the question panel box, in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. And it will pop up on my screen, and I will read it to Erin. And if you think of questions later, no worries. You can talk offline to Erin or contact me, and I'll put you all in touch. One question we got was, would you be willing to share any of your promotional materials, your sponsor requests, school invitations, etc., with participants of the webinar?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is it okay if Erin, I send those to you, Susan?
Yep, you can send that to me, and I will post it along with the webinar and the presentation slides, so everyone will have it in one place. So thanks, Erin. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Okay, this is a question about some of the activities that the manufacturers came up with. You mentioned interactive activities, but what kind of interactive events did manufacturers come up with, and how long did it take to set up? This chamber's tossed around an idea of doing something like this, but our manufacturers always seem to say their interactive activities and equipment would be too big to move around.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so we used the auditorium, the gymnasium area of the college, which allowed us, a lot of space. What we told folks was, you have a 10 by 10 space, but if you need more room, let us know and we will accommodate it. So I mentioned the CNC machine that was there in 2017, and that was actually kind of set up outside of the area that all of the rest of our booths were set up in, so that they could have the room that they needed. The General Motors display that brings in the heat sensor thing, they take up a little bit more room. We just kind of say, here's what we're going to be able to have right off the bat, but you let us know what you need and we'll accommodate it. And so having that large space was super helpful for that. And then we just kind of looked at what people needed and placed them in those areas. So, for instance, the virtual welder needed to have a certain amount of electricity outlet. And so we had to put that person in that one particular spot. And then we had, somebody making things. I wish I knew what all the things are, but, nuts and bolts and stuff. It was ending up to be something. They didn't need electricity. So they were able to go in the middle of the room. So it was just kind of really working individually for our members to see what they wanted to bring and where we could fit them, and really just trying to be as accommodating as possible, so that we are getting the most for our students.
Okay. Another question is about your membership roundtables. How did you select attendees for the 12 roundtables?
So we look at folks that, well, at first we started to do by industry. So we were looking at, let's get folks in manufacturing, or try to get folks in retail, and kind of those areas that, we were lacking, in hospitality and stuff. And we were just trying to find those decision makers. Now what we do is look at, folks who are new to the area or new chamber members who are opening up, so we can kind of get their feel for what's going on, how the process went, what we could do to ease it up, or what they need right then, or it might just be kind of a selection of jewelers or whatever it may be. There's no real rhyme or reason. We just try to focus in on an area. We do that every other month. So we try to focus in on an area and find folks that are decision makers. So we don't necessarily want the sales rep. We want the manager or the owner to be at the round table.
Okay. Another question is your city a paying member of your chamber, and or do you have an economic development relationship with the mayor's office?
They are a paying member of our chamber. They are actually one of our largest partners. So we don't have a tiered due system. We do have partnership levels, and each year they come in as a visionary partner, which is our highest level, and pay our dues paying members. As far as the relationship, yes, our city has an economic development department. They also started a economic development advisory group. Several years ago, I guess. I serve on that, and as I always say, I feel like we're each other's office annexes. So, if somebody from our office isn't talking to someone from economic development department on a daily basis or texting back and forth, then something is wrong. And the mayor is a huge supporter of the chamber and has said multiple times that if the chamber and the city don't have a good relationship, then everything else falls apart. So he really pushes and sees the benefit in the chamber and what we're doing to support the community and support the businesses in it.
Okay. I think we just have one other question, and that is whether we will post the PowerPoint presentation. And yes, we will post Erin's presentation with the recording. And so again, this webinar was recorded. I will post it on our ACCE webinar page. It'll be there no later than Monday, February 5th. And you can find that by going to our website, www.acce.org. Click on Professional Development, hover over ACC University Online, and then click on Webinars. And you just click through. This will be at the top of the list. You can click on the thumbnail for the recording, and all of the other information will be there as well, including the presentation. Our next ACC University webinar will be on Thursday, February 15th at 2 p.m., and that's going to be on chamber mergers and alliances. And it will feature a panel of your peers who have managed the very challenging merger process, and they'll be here to tell their stories, answer your questions, and provide the resources that help them. You can register for that webinar on our events page, which you can get to by clicking on Professional Development, hovering over events, and then navigating and clicking on upcoming webinars. So Erin, I want to thank you again so much for the presentation. We really appreciate you sharing your experience and information and lessons learned with our members. And I know everyone benefited from it. And thank you everyone for your participation and your interest. Again, look for the recording on Monday, and that is it. So wishing everyone a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.